simply Motsoka.
Good morning, Mashudu. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Motsoka?
I'm also very well. You're looking very beautiful.
Thank you. We tried today.
Yes, no, this look is it's very nice. It's very nice. But thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for visiting us.
It's an honor. It's actually very much an honor. So now tell me, just before we start with all of this interviewing and things, do let us know if you want to take a call. We can pause.
That's fine. I'll return the call. Don't worry.
Okay. So what does Mashuru do for fun?
Hey, yeah, I know. I love hiking.
Oh.
So I love being in nature. I love, for me, being in nature is just one thing that talks to, my personality. And I think it's a moment that I use it to, talk to God. And I just admire the things that He has created. And, hearing the birds. Because, in nature it's birds, it's the quiet forest, and then there's the nice waterfalls and all of that. So I enjoy doing that. I must say, though, I haven't hiked in a while.
Yeah, hiking. I did try hiking before somewhere with some people. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I can say it's one of those things. One day maybe we can do this again
together
and see how it's going. But yeah, I think for today you are a very unique guest in usually the type of people that I interview. You are running an accounting and auditing company. Can you just tell us a little bit about MGT Accounting and Auditing Company? On what do you guys do? What services do you offer? So that if there's anybody that is watching, especially in the medical space, that are in need of the services, they may understand what you offer.
Okay, so MGT Accounting and Consulting Inc. is an registered incorporated company. Since I'm a professional, I had to be a registered incorporated company. So what we do at MGT is basically we work with businesses. So it's mostly B2B business, where we come in the space of actually partnering with businesses and helping the businesses with their accounting, their auditing, their tax, secretarial, advisory, and payroll services.
Okay.
So I have a team that I work with that helps me, obviously to achieve that, because as you can imagine, that can be quite a lot of work for one person, and especially if you're working with businesses, because most of the businesses that we've actually worked with have moved from where they are and they've grown into business, and as they grow, obviously we need to grow in terms of the service offering that we provide them and stuff like that. So yes, we basically do that. We have a presence in almost everywhere in South Africa, but in terms of offices, we only have the Pretoria and the Witbank office that recently opened this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's basically MGT in a nutshell. Previously, we used to be an all-ladies firm.
Yes.
I'm very happy
I saw some diversity.
to share that we have 2 males that have joined our team.
That's awesome.
I think they bring in the flavor, the color that we needed. And yes, I must say that I work with a wonderful team of ladies that, as you're working, we frustrate each other, but we get the work done. The frustration is to make sure that whatever promise we make to the client is delivered and is actually honored at the time that it was supposed to be honored.
Wow, that is quite amazing. That is quite amazing. Now, speaking about the business, I can see that you guys, most of your clientele is businesses. Now, let's assume that a medical practitioner or a nurse or someone in that space that is currently trading and offering services in their personal capacity, and now they wanted to now offer services in their profession, but under a company, especially this Inc. Can you just maybe tell us, how does one get to register the Inc. and what are the benefits of having an Inc., especially when you're trading in the practice of the healthcare space?
So doctors are in the similar space as us as accountants, chartered accountants. So it's doctors, it's chartered accountants, it's lawyers, which is legal practitioners. So the nature of the work that we do, because it requires a lot of judgment from us as professionals, it's mostly advisable to register an incorporated company. In fact, what is recommended, you've actually got 2 choices if you're going to go in that space. You either trade in your own personal capacity or you go into register an incorporated company, trading as an Inc. So I'd normally advise people to separate, to literally have have your personal life separate and have the Inc. and the business separate. Because when you have like a sole prop, it means your business and you are the same.
Okay.
So you, in your personal capacity, need to be registered for the VAT, because if your turnover exceeds that 1 million, then you need to register for that. If you've got people that are working under you, under your name, you need to then register for all those taxes.
Yeah.
But even besides that, so if you want to pursue personal things, then it means you are, combining your business and your personal in your processes when you're pursuing all your personal, things on the side. So for me, I'd say, as a practitioner or professional like me, rather separate, have your own things as a person and manage the business separate as an incorporated company.
Okay, thank you for that advice. So I'm assuming now once you are in an Inc., obviously you need to now set up your goals and do all this budgeting, which leads to my next question. I've always struggled, even myself as a business owner, structuring this budget.
Yeah.
What really goes into it? Like maybe on a high level, but basic, how do you set up your goals and align them with your financial budgeting and all?
I think it really starts with knowing why are you in business, number one.
Yeah.
You need to know, okay, why am I in this business, number one? What do I want to achieve, number two, perhaps. So once you have those two things aligned, then you know, okay, if I'm at this point, I want, for example, as MGT, one of our goals or vision is to obviously have presence in the rest of South Africa and obviously go outside South Africa.
Yeah.
So we have that vision, and and that's one of our goals. But with goals, you need to take one bite at a time, and something that you can manage. So the goals that you set for yourself must be realistic.
Okay.
It must be things that are achievable, and then you can attain them. And very important that what we forget in businesses is to put time on it.
Yes.
Because sometimes I can say, yes, MGT want to expand everywhere, but because when I have that timeline, it's going to bring me back to what I want to achieve. So even medical professionals with their businesses, it's obviously to see, okay, why are they in their space? And then if they're in that space, where do they want to go financially?
Yeah.
So say, for example, currently the medical practitioner is actually turning over, for example, 1 million, and they would like to go to 5 million.
Yeah.
So that is a goal that they can actually set for themselves to say, I want to improve my turnover and see my business actually making over 5 million rand a year.
Yeah.
So that is a goal that you can set. But now you need to also understand, when you're setting that goal, when do you want to achieve that? And with the current resources that you have, is it attainable?
Yes.
Or is there certain things that you then need to put in place?
Yeah.
So goals can be obviously financial and non-financial, and very important, they need to be smart goals.
Smart goals.
So they need to be specific, measurable, attainable, and all of those time specific, the goals. But when we speak to finances, I always say, look at where you are, where do you want to go, how do you get to that point?
Okay.
And is there things that you need to put in place in your business? Is there, marketing efforts that you need to do? Is there additional people that you can perhaps markets that you can perhaps tap into?
Yeah.
And then also expenses. You look at the expenses. Are you spending in the right spaces?
Yes.
Or is there other spaces that we perhaps need to look at and then avoid or reduce in
And I believe this is basically, obviously, for everyone. I mean, if it's business, it's not just the medical space, but it's beneficial for everyone.
Yes.
I remember when I started, everything was everywhere. I would go and buy stationery with my personal card.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, in my own personal space, I don't have money, but in the business, there's money, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, then thank you so much for that answer.
Simply Motsoka.
So thank you, Mashudu, for that feedback. Now tell me something. When exactly can a practitioner register for VAT from a business point of view?
Okay, so you are required by law to actually compulsory register for VAT when your turnover exceeds 1 million over a period of 12 months.
Okay.
However, you are also given an opportunity, should there be other reasons, to voluntarily register if your turnover exceeds 50,000. over a period of 12 months. So you obviously have to prove that your turnover has exceeded that, and that and also give them reasons why you want to volunteer for VAT, to register for VAT. Yes.
So you can be VAT registered under the Inc. structure.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So either way, if they're trading as a sole prop, you can also be registered as a VAT vendor if your turnover for the 12 months have exceeded actually a million rand.
What's a sole prop?
Sole prop is in your personal name.
If
you haven't registered an Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Now assume that I've got $1 million in my business as a turnover, but I am not paying for VAT.
Yeah.
How can a business owner be in trouble? I mean, this is beyond medical practices.
I'm really happy that you're raising this, because last year actually SARS started implementing this system of automatically registering businesses for VAT.
Okay.
So those are people that have long exceeded the 1 million turnover, but have not registered voluntarily. Going to SARS and registering, or whatever means, but to register for VAT.
Yeah.
So SARS looks at the records and sees that MPP's turnover has exceeded 1 million, but they haven't registered for VAT. You just get an SMS to say you are now VAT registered.
Oh, they automatically VAT register you?
Yes, automatically VAT registered. And then with most of them, it goes back to the time that your turnover actually exceeded 1 million.
Okay.
So the trouble that then a business gets into is that for all those periods, you should have been levying VAT. So number one, you're not complying with laws and regulations. Number two, now you've got also go back and declare all those previous returns. So it means whatever work you've submitted to SARS, you need to reopen and redo your returns and submit. So what does that mean for business? It means of your turnover, let's say it was 3 years back that I actually qualified to actually register for VAT, and I didn't. For 3 years, I need to go back 3 years and resubmit.
Wow.
And prepare all those returns. And remember, with VAT you submit every 2 months.
Yes.
So now, if you have to go back 3 years, can you imagine that that's 6 times in a year times 3 years?
Yes.
So we're looking at 18 VAT reports that you need to submit.
So basically, that's a lot of admin.
It's a lot. And if you have not been taking that VAT from the clients, it means it's coming from your pocket as the business. Because if you VAT registered, you need to levy 15% in your services, invoices, or whatever you are selling. So if you're not, and now you need to pay it over and declare because you were supposed to, it's going to come out from your whatever funds you've got.
Gee, that's quite intense.
Yeah. So you can see you're potentially sitting at a tax bill or a tax liability that is quite high. And that's not just that. There's going to be interest for late submission, penalties for late submissions.
Sure, that's a lot of stress. But now, with the clients that we service, mostly they are VAT registered. But I remember we had one who wasn't, and they were actually having a turnover over R1 million. And I remember I used to say, please do get yourself VAT registered.
Yeah.
And lifestyle was quite luxury and all that. So I hope this is kind of an FYI, so that we can get ourselves checked.
Yes, and the other thing is when they start checking that, obviously they can remember SARS is allowed by law to actually go into our records and check what is happening, and audit us in any case, because we have what is called the burden of proof to prove to SARS, for example, in businesses that if I'm claiming certain expenses as a deduction, I actually have proof to show that I need to, or I'm allowed by law to actually claim that. So they've got a right to actually go back maybe 5 years and say we want to see all the supporting documents for the previous 5 years.
Okay.
And they can go personal and business.
Wow.
Yes, I do have a few cases of clients that have been audited for a number of years.
Okay.
And that goes to, complying with laws and regulations. And as a business, what are you doing? Remember, we have an obligation to actually pay our taxes. And the taxes that, are being used by the government to run the country and all the service that they are rendering to the citizens. So I know people have got a stigma towards tax.
All of us do.
There's ways to, obviously avoid tax. There's what is called tax evasion and tax avoidance. Tax evasion is illegal; it's not allowed. in the tax avoidance is looking for ways that are allowed in the law to actually reduce your tax liability.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that.
We have to look at it.
So tax avoidance, I think I'm interested in that. You mentioned something about being audited. Of course, they can come and audit you, but is there like a threshold where, as a business, every year or at a particular time, by law, you need to be audited? Like, what triggers the auditing part?
So there's a lot of things that SARS actually does. It could be changes in the lifestyle, or maybe they could see, in the declarations that, for example, I'll give an example of maybe celebrities.
Okay.
I won't mention anyone's name, but to say a certain celebrity, the declaration is so much amount, but the lavish lifestyles that they're living is out there.
Yeah.
So what they are living and what they're declaring is not the same, because as South African citizens, we are taxed on a worldwide tax income. So what it simply means is, if I earn income even outside South Africa, I need to declare that income.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also another thing is that when you declare your taxes as an individual, you need to declare everything, all your sources of income. And sometimes people tend to forget and focus on only the RP5. You've got an RP5, and that's what you're submitting.
Yes.
You forgot that you've got, residential places that you're renting out, that you need to then include in your returns and submit, and tell them that, this is the additional income I get. People that also do additional things like I do, where you get commission paid, you paid commission, then you've got that opportunity as well to add that and declare that to start to say, okay, over and above my RP5, SARS, I've got this income that I get from this place, and that income I get from maybe my dividends from these investments, the interest that I get. The good thing though is that banks and investment houses are on par, so they automatically will declare all your information to SARS. But some of the things that are not declared and you need to declare, because if you get audited and that is obviously not declared, so it is trying to defraud the system. You're not declaring, you're not being truthful, you're not being honest in your declarations, and that also is a charge, with SARS. There's penalties and interest for that. So when they charge, actually the penalties and interest, it depends on the severity of the case.
Okay.
So if your case is straight, you were trying to defraud, the penalty can go even up to 200%.
But can you go to jail, or it's just a penalty financial?
Yes.
Oh my word.
You can go to jail. So it depends also on the severity of the case.
I see.
You can go to jail. You can be a financial. Sometimes they can even say either maybe equivalent of maybe 5 million, or go to jail for 5 years.
Oh,
yeah.
So $1 million is a year.
I'm not sure.
That's
just an example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's quite interesting. I mean, why I don't know, some of the reasons is sometimes because of the service we offer, I'll be sitting in front of a doctor and they'll ask me, obviously, accounting questions, or like this one lady said, look, I've got multiple personal accounts and certain things in my practice I pay with that. So how does all of that work? So I'm just going to refer them to you. Yeah. But maybe just for the interest of an FYI, maybe you can give an insight.
So it's a very important, Motsoka, for keeping documents and records of everything that you're doing, especially when you're running business or you're going to mix business and personal. Because, for example, if you're going to use your personal to buy business things or vice versa, at least have records. So that when in your financial statements or whatever you declare on the business, then it shows that, okay, there is maybe a loan that you gave the business when you're paying for certain things for the business, or the business gave you money to do your own other personal things, but there must be something in writing that then talks to all of that and allows you to have records in case of what we've just spoken about now in terms of audit, and we have to prove certain things to us that definitely this money, I paid it on behalf of the business, but it's not a personal expense, because if they go after your personal as well, to be able to prove that I didn't declare this because it was, for example, you took your money from your salary that was already declared, from your pay and the tax that you deduct every month, and then you gave the business. You didn't. When it comes back into the business, it's not additional income. It's replacing what was originally taxed.
Oh.
You see. So having the records of all of that is going to be key for that specific person that has asked you about that question, but also to declare everything. I know sometimes it feels like you are over declaring and all of that, but the one organ of state that has the power to actually access everything else about us is actually the receiver of revenue. So they can get this information.
Yes, they
so volunteering to declare that, you know, by yourself, it helps you because it shows the kind of a person that you are, that there's no funny business that you wanted to do. You didn't want to defraud SARS, you didn't want to do any funny business. So even if it gets to a point that you forgot to declare something, then when they look at your records and, you know, all of that, they can see that no, but based on history, you've not had any record, or, you know, we didn't plan to actually, defraud the receiver.
I see. I have a question that came from my friend, who's a medical doctor as well. They said I must ask you.
Okay, I hope I can answer it.
How many cars can a practitioner buy under their business? Because he said he had a rumor that now with SARS, there's a limit on the number of cars that can be purchased under a business. I'm like, okay, I'll see if there's an answer. But if it's not something that we can answer, we can try.
I don't, you know, when it comes to vehicles, there's no, remember, it's an asset of the business. As long as the business or whatever cars that's being bought, there's clear information to show that the documentation shows that this is an asset that belongs to the business. I don't recall any limit in terms of what. The only thing that I'm thinking of while we're talking about this is the VAT implications for people that buy luxury or personal use vehicle. Then you don't get VAT. You know, when you buy vehicles or when you're a VAT vendor, when you certain expenses, you're gonna get obviously the VAT back for whatever you paid when you're paying for those things. But if you buy things like luxury vehicle or passenger vehicle, like your normal vehicles that we drive, then there's no VAT on that. Oh, so you're not gonna get any benefit from that.
But it doesn't make sense. So if I was trading in a business that maybe I need a bakkie, I get more money. I get my VAT back because it's a bakkie working in the business. Yes. But if I buy a luxury car and I come to this meeting, it's a business. It doesn't make sense.
So if you are driving the passenger vehicle, the luxury vehicle is excluded from VAT deduction name. Okay. However, the bakkie, you can claim the VAT on that.
I see.
So most people, when they talk about the number of vehicles they can have, it's probably linked to that, to find ways in terms of how can we try and bring down, the VAT that we have to pay over to SARS. Because as service organization like I am, you pay VAT on everything. Almost. Your services that you render, you're charging VAT. However, when you have to claim or you're doing a VAT recons, not everything is going to be allowed. Like our biggest expense is salaries. So with that, there's no VAT. So in most of the cases, we always are going to, in fact, ever since we registered for VAT, we've never actually gotten anything back from SARS. We are always paying. So it's probably something that they're looking into to say, how can we try and reduce the VAT liability? However, with the number of vehicles, there's no limit in terms of what you can, as long as whatever vehicle you're buying is under the business using business funds. It's a business asset, which is actually quite a good thing. It's sitting there as a vehicle for the business, or an asset for the business. Yeah.
I see. No, you've answered most of my very critical questions. I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm sure the viewers, they will pop in. And then maybe we can try and reach out to you to get some answers. Or because now they'll be knowing about your brand, they can reach out to you.
Simply Motsoka.
But thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Simple Motsoka.
Yes. So before I wrap up, there's a question I usually ask every doctor about the journey of them becoming a medical practitioner. So just tell me, in wrapping up, how long do I have to go study to become an accountant for me to now say I'm qualified and I want to go and trade, whether privately or working for someone, in case somebody's thinking of studying accounting?
Sure, please. Be an accountant, we need accountants. Be a
Okay.
CA, we need accountants. There's a shortage of CAs, and I think also the issue of people migrating for better opportunities. There's always an opportunity to give back here at home. So to be a chartered accountant, you need to study a BCom accounting degree and then do your honors. So it has to be a BCom accounting and an honors that is accredited with SICA
Okay.
to be a chartered accountant. So that has to be accredited with SICA, and then once you've passed those, so it's going to be a 4-year journey at full time while you're full time at work at varsity. So once you're done with that, you have to do articles.
Okay.
So articles is training, it's a 3-year training program that you can do. I think in most places we started ours this year as well. We've got 2 trainings
All right.
that are starting towards being chartered accountants.
So that's like an internship.
Yes.
Sorry, my background is IT.
Yes.
So, okay.
That's
All
like
right.
a 3-year internship in
All right.
a way. So once you are doing that, you write 2 exams. The first, it's called ITC, the initial test for competence, and then you write APC in your 2nd year. Yes. So once you've passed those, in my years when you're still doing it, it was board 1 and board 2. So they've changed now. So you write those board exams after your 2nd board exams, and if you have met, because with SICA, this 3-year training program, basically what it does is it prepares you for the workplace.
I see.
So what it does is practical, bringing all the theory that you've learned into practical, experience. So now you have to gain the experience in terms of when you're working with different clients. There's competencies that you must get. So they do reviews regularly to make sure that they're getting those competencies, because by the end of the 3 years, they need to have passed the exams, and then they need to have acquired all the different competencies that they need to get from SICAM. And then once they've got all those ones, then they can be signed off as a chartered accountant.
I see.
Yeah.
So then
it's a journey of 7 years.
That's more like medicine, eh?
It's
actually medicine. I hope
it's just that the difference is, I think they do an additional 3 years.
they do. Yeah.
Public,
Public, community service and all.
Community service.
So after that 7-year period, basically you can now open your own MGT if you want it.
You can open your own. You can work at any place. But the nice thing about our profession is that you are trained to be a leader.
Yes.
So you can lead in any field, any area, industry that you like, provided obviously you've got the experience and you've got the chance to actually work in those industries. And we South African chartered accountants, I don't know if you know, is the number 1 globally.
Is it?
Brand.
I didn't know.
No, we're number 1 brand. So
that's good.
So we are in demand.
Wow.
All over the world.
Yes.
So most people, because of that, some people actually they go outside the country. So there's a lot that we can do here also in the country to give back, and to contribute also, to the economy in terms of job creation, giving back to the community. And the little that we're doing in terms of paying our taxes goes a long way. There's a lot of grants that are coming out of that. So there's quite a lot that we can do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if
you.
somebody is watching and they want to consider doing accounting, that's the space.
Definitely they must come.
Yeah.
And then we'll have the doctors.
You have the doctors. Really, it's the model of our business, as you know, most of the time is we work with accountants, because after we've done, especially if this is the service of the billing space, when we've collected all the claims, we have to submit the financial reports even to the doctor and the accountants. So we are exposed to quite a lot of accountants as well. Then for practitioners that are VAT registered, we pull a VAT report on all the medical claims that they would have, obviously money that came in, what was reconciled. We give that also to the accountant.
Exactly.
So sometimes I fight with you guys because you expect us to do your job. And I'm like, no, it's not our scope, because it can be very quite tedious. And I got to learn a little bit about your language, expense, income, all of this, because we are using an accounting system from the practice management software. So But thank you so much, Mashudu, for spending this time with us and
thank you.
helping us to really bring an insight to our viewers. And I also hope that medical doctors or anybody that runs a business, they can get some insight. And I don't know if you have
maybe what I can add, Motsoka, because I know doctors can be very busy.
Yes.
and being able to actually do the things in the way that needs to be done can be tedious. And this also maybe does not apply to only doctors, but specifically because we're speaking to doctors.
Yeah.
I mean, as a specialist, you know your field so well, and that is what you're focusing on. Then they don't need to stress about things like, compliance, late on submissions, penalties because they didn't do certain things. So I think that the work that you're doing as Simply Motsoka is quite amazing to actually say, you know what, I'm going to come in this space and lift off some of that burden that you could possibly have if you don't know how to manage, because that is a very important space that you're in. Because otherwise they can't meet those targets in terms of turnover if they're not collecting it on time. The proper information is not submitted to the different medical spaces, to get the funds. And also once they've done that, to ensure that they keep the money, because they're dealing with people.
So part of the professional services is we do a bit of advisory where we will sit with the doctor, for example, play to be a mini accountant. So then we will obviously lay out a plan for the doctor to say, okay, obviously the goal mostly to open a practice is because you want to serve the community. You went to medical school because you want to, that's your passion and your calling. Then we sit and now we do a plan with you. Then mostly in that planning, I usually check if they have an accountant. If they don't, then I reach out and, do the introduction. Then we start planning the financial model, but from the accounting, from the medical accounts point of view. We set targets. When we collect, we go and check. Then I kind of become the gatekeeper of the doctor. Say, look, you said you're going to do this. You haven't done it.
Accountable.
Yes. And obviously, sometimes they connect us directly with the accountants and we speak directly. Then the accountant will say, look, I'm going to need this and this and this and that from. Then we reach out. If obviously it's a practitioner that has allowed the receptionist to have that access. If not, whoever the person would be, we reach out to those. So we somehow collect data for you and then we hand it over. But it also helps us because when it comes especially to patients that would have paid cash or maybe it's an EFT that was done and we don't have access maybe to the bank statement, we still need to reconcile that. And then we send you that report to say when it comes to the income that came into the practice from a billings point of view, all the claims, this is what we've done. And it saves you guys quite a lot of...
Oh, it does. It does. And that was, one of the systems that you guys are using was what? Like sort of a saving grace in one of the audits we had with actually one of the medical doctors that we work with, whereby, it's really an industry that not everyone understands. And I think SARS, or the auditor that we were working with, they didn't understand because what they were expecting is, they expect like me, I'll issue an invoice and stuff like that. It works differently with practices. So, that system actually provides quite a lot of information that they can then use, even in the auditing to just double check this is the income that came into the business, and they verify then with third parties in terms of the medical aids and the other clients that pay maybe their own monies or cash,
No, I mean, really, even I don't own any medical software, but I mean, the few that I've worked with, some of them now are actually incorporating the accounting module in it, which obviously could become a threat. I'm just saying, I mean, if you are running a medical practice, ideally, usually I advise my clients to say, rather move in with a system that has all of that integrated. It makes it easier. Yes, and
then we come in the space of advisory.
And you get access as well for the financial module side, where you, just like how you do with our normal ones, where I will invite you, you are able to see and view. But in that space, you won't be able to see the clinical side of the patients. Even us, when we do the claims, we don't get to see
around that. And,
it's only what we capture, what we invoice, and that's it. But we don't see the clinical notes or know what is the issue in terms of that. But obviously, from the code, you're able to tell because the procedure.
I'm sure you know the codes now by heart.
I mean, it's different industries. I mean, I know neurology codes, gynae codes, I know physician codes.
I would be shocked if you know neurology codes.
So I know all of them, but mostly the codes, it's not something to memorize. It's understanding the business rules and how they they operate, because just like in accounting,
Yeah.
the medical space is also regulated.
Very regulated.
So, and when you are a coder for a doctor, you need to support them and make sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they submit correctly. Otherwise,
Correct.
they get in trouble.
Yes.
The SARS of doctors is
Yeah.
the medical aid schemes, all of them,
Yes.
So yeah, they are being policed and they have associations as well. But thank you so much for this time. I really enjoyed it.
Same here.
And
same
I learned
here.
so much.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that I'm going to get my own discount rate. But yes, I think it's a wrap with the interview.
Thank you.
Simply Motsoka.